Wow. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. So today we're going to talk about ABA. Wanted to go ahead and just introduce myself, and for a lot of people who don't know who I am, my name is Ricky Hutcheson. And this is a little bit, no, this is not about me. Hold on. No, this is not me. Not me. Oh, come on. Oh, there I am. Okay, so this is about me. So a little bit, I went to Jacksonville State for my undergrad. I like to talk about the Gamecocks because they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Here we are. Also, they have a phenomenal education program. Yeah. And then I'm at Ball State University now for my master's degree, and I am loving every minute of it. And that is why I wanted to do a WWE, to talk to you about the research that I'm doing in ABA, which is Applied Behavioral Analysis. It is very useful for our educational systems. So I want to talk about it, but to talk about ABA, we have to understand what it is. So there is the definition. So read the definition right quick. It's pretty scientific.
This is what my daughter's getting in 3 weeks.
There we go. Awesome. The most important part of that whole definition is where they start talking about influencing socially significant behavior. Now, we can say that there's a lot of significance about different behaviors and so on and so forth, but man, you get into ABA and they start having a lot of specifics because you have to, because you really got to focus on the behavior change that you're really looking to try to implement. And that's why I wanted to talk about it today. So these three gentlemen, I think one of them might be a female, but Bear, Wolf, and Risley, back in '68, had a bunch of information. I mean, like 7 to 8 different things. It needs to be applied, it needs to be behavioral, analytic, all these things, and they were trying to define behavior and how are we going to do this, and it has to be all these things, and it's very complicated. So we're just going to talk about 3 of them. Just the applied, the behavioral, and the analytic part of it, the ABA. So first one, ABA's commitment is to improve life. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make students' lives better, teachers' lives better, the person that changes your oil. I mean, everybody wants to have a better life, and ABA can set out to try to give that to everybody. It's not just about autism. It could be used for everyone. So the behavior part's pretty simple to think about. However, it's broken down into 3 pieces. So you have to focus on the specific behavior that needs improvement, not the kid. Not the, this kid is just, okay. This kid has multitudes of behaviors, and let's focus on one. Let's not focus on a bunch. Then it has to be measurable, and this is the one that I love. Man, whose behavior is going to change whenever you start observing? Because I guarantee you're probably going to change too. Because whenever you start looking and you take away your bias and you start looking at the student and the specific behavior, your behaviors are going to change too. You are. It happens. So you have to be very careful whenever you're in an investigation or you're doing an experiment, whose behavior you're looking at. Okay? So your analytic part, that's the biggest thing. Man, this right here, functional relationship. There are functional relationships between behaviors and consequences, which we know that. You do something, you get in trouble for it. We know the functional relationship between behavior and consequence, but you need to know what creates behavior. And we're going to talk about that because it's the whole purpose of why is this so important to education? Oh, okay, great. Well, people are getting their degrees in this and all kinds of stuff, but why? Why is it important? Well, here's the most important part of running an effective and efficient classroom. Happens before students even get there. We know what that is. It's this. It's planning. You have to plan. You got to get together. You guys are having a planning meeting right now, team meetings, all kinds of stuff, because it's super important. And the reason why planning is so important is because it does this. So let's talk about stimulus control for a minute. Stimulus control, you've got all this stuff in here, discriminated operants. You've got the operant is happening frequently more in the presence of this stimulus, and it's not happening when you don't have this stimulus. It's under stimulus control. I'll break that down real easily. You get into your classroom, you say, everyone take out your Chromebooks. They take out their Chromebooks. They have been put under stimulus control that when they hear that, they do that. And you created that because you went into your classroom, we go into our classrooms as teachers, and we create stimulus control. Because to have effective classroom management, you want to have stimulus control. So you can stimulate, and then they give you what you're asking. So it's almost like common sense. Because you think, okay, hey, if I say, please get out your Chromebook, they should get their Chromebook out. Now, these three sections out here, the ABCs of the whole behavioral analysis, I want to hang out for a second because we get this. We understand behavior happens, we understand the consequences because you did something wrong. But the antecedent is something that happens immediately before the behavior happens. Little Johnny's sitting down, little Johnny gets up. And you as the teacher, or I as the teacher, we all, bless you, we say, Johnny, take a seat. So Johnny looks, goes back, sits back down. A few seconds later, Johnny's right back up. And you say, hey, Johnny, please take a seat. Johnny looks at you, looks at the class, walks back to his desk all kind of funny. Everybody laughs. He sits back down. Is Johnny being reinforced for what he's doing? Yeah, because you are talking to him every single time. He's getting other students to look at him. He's getting exactly what he wants. And the antecedent here is not, well, little Johnny has ADHD. No. You can't look at the overall, person and say, well, because of ADHD, Johnny can't sit in a seat. That's not what's happening. What's happening is there's an antecedent. Something's happening in the classroom. Something's happening that you're saying. Something's happening that he is seeing or perceiving, and it's creating his behavior. So it's our job as teachers to find out what those antecedents are. Do we know? No. It's like a constant, you're always moving around. You talk to teachers all the time, and they're like, hey, did you see this? Yeah, did you see it? And we're always figuring out something new. Like education is cyclical. It moves around. One minute you get it, the next minute you don't get it. And you're talking to everyone. You're trying to learn new ways because it's always moving. But in ABA, this is the most important thing that we're missing. Oh, we see the behavior and we give them the consequence, but we don't really break down what's causing that behavior. So let's talk about it. Stimulus control. Take a second and read this. This is really important about our students here at Russell Middle School. Now I want to explain the SD. That is language in ABA for a discriminative stimulus. What that is something that has been paired up, and it's a stimulus that has been created for someone. And students have these stimuli that have been created for them that automatically create this when they see the bus. They see the bus and they're already going to act out. They see the bus and they're already going to shut down. And they're not even here yet. And then they get here and they hear the first teacher talk to them, and they're going to act out or they're going to shut down. It's because there has been something that has been linked to them. It has been discriminated on where their brain has thrown out all the other stimuli and said this. So I'm saying that's that discriminative part where you take out all the clutter and you go, this is what causes me to be stimulated. So when that happens, it's our jobs as teachers to go, okay, wow, we have to combat that and we have to create good ones. We have to create almost like entertainers. Come into my classroom and love my classroom more than you love video games, or love my classroom more than you love being on your phone. You feel like you're obligated to do that because we're fighting this and we're having to create this. And we do it through classroom structure. We know that because teachers are taught that. Harry Wong talks about it. Everybody talks about, oh, here are the best ways to have classroom management. And as a teacher, you go, well, I want that. I want classroom management where my kids listen to me. Well, here's the ways you can do it. There are 4 focuses. You've got physical arrangement of your classroom, time structure, instructional consistency, and verbal consistency. So let's talk real quickly about all 4 of them. First one Physical arrangement. Now, I love this. It's not interior decoration, it's stimulus control. So you don't think about that like feng shui. I'm trying to create my classroom, and you go in and you see it, it's a blank slate. I was so happy to get my own classroom this year because I was like, I'm gonna put a couch in there, and I was so pumped because it was all about me. Had nothing to do with my students. Now, I was gonna use the couch for the students, but I was like, man, I get to hang up lights and I can put up what I wanna put up. But look at your second point here. Pay attention to the stimuli that may distract your students. You might love all of your PowerPoint presentations that you've had in the past and all your posters, but you might have a kid that has severe ADHD and they come in and they don't listen to a word you say because they're too busy looking at all of your posters. And you're like, I'm right here, but they're too busy looking at Michael Jordan. And you're like, dude, I remember that guy. Okay, eyes up here. But we don't pay attention to those things because we want our classrooms to be fun. We want them to be attractive. We want the kids to come in and want to be there. But we distract them to a point where they're not learning anything. So another thing that you can think about is sudden changes to your classroom. Ooh, you have an autistic child and you change everything and you don't even give them a heads up. They're going to walk in, they're going to freak out because they're used to a routine. They're used to a normalcy. And a lot of our kids here at Rossville Middle School need normalcy. They need consistency. And if they don't get that, and willy-nilly you just come in and, I'm not feeling it today, and you move all the desks, they're going to spend 15 to 20 minutes trying to even figure out what to do because you've moved all their stuff. Hey, where's my notebook? Well, they're over there. Well, they were here, and they're going to complain about it. And then you're going to say, well, it's not your classroom. It's our classroom. It's their classroom too. So that is a really important piece. So here is a couple of pictures of my classroom. At the beginning of the year, I had these little LED lamps. I wanted to make it like it was a coffee shop. I had an espresso machine in there. I want to make coffee where you walk in and it smelled like coffee. I wanted it to be like Barnes & Noble. So I had these little LED lamps. I didn't use my overhead lights, and it was just chill. And during open house, I had a student come in and she said, yep, I like the vibe. And that was cool. I was like, hey, it worked. Okay, a student said I like the vibe. Well, this lasted about a month because they would break my lamps. They were using them as lightsabers and stuff. And I'm like, okay, those have got to go away. So I took them away. I moved my couch because people were sitting up against the wall and looking out the window. So I was like, well, let me move the couch over there. And I changed some things around, but it's still kind of the same chill atmosphere. And it's amazing that if you turn the lights on in my classroom, you'll see the entire classroom demographic change. I mean, you could go from having classroom management to losing the entire class just by turning the lights on. That's how conditioned my class is, which I really take pride in because I spent an entire semester conditioning them to come into the classroom and be in the classroom and respect it. You come in as a substitute and turn my lights on, watch them lose their mind. I actually have to leave it in my instructions for my substitute. Please do not turn the overhead lights on, because if I do, it'll mess up the whole day. They're not going to listen to you. So, time structure. Ooh, this is important. I don't want to waste your time. I know you don't want to waste your time either. It's very important. And you have to make sure that you have activities and everything implemented, put out strategies for it. You have your daily objectives. You have goals that you're going for. That's not for plan book to just hold and one day we'll get a cookie for it. No, it's to give you a chance to actually see your roadmap. Where do you need to go? There's other time aspects, like students will work more quickly if you put them on a time limit. I know this because I did a case study. I can't wait to show you. Here it is. So I did what is known as the 10-minute blitz. Now, my 10-minute blitz case study involved giving students a 10-minute block to write everything they can. So I would give them a topic and I'd say, okay, let's talk about basketball. How many people in here play basketball? And they would raise their hand. I'm like, awesome, okay. Do you know a lot about basketball? Yes, I do. Okay, how about basketball shoes? How about WNBA? How about, 3-on-1, all kind of stuff. And I just briefly explained basketball. And then I said, go. And they wrote for 10 minutes. Now, I want to show you the difference. This was what I did at the beginning of the year. I did this. Oops, sorry, wrong way. I did this, question of the day. I thought, man, I'm going to be the coolest English teacher ever. I'm going to play music, and I'm going to stimulate them. I'm just going to let them write in their journals. So I would turn on a song, and I'd say, hey, question of the day, write about this until the song ends. That's what I got. They would listen to the song and sing the lyrics. They didn't pay attention. That's what I got. And I was like, okay, I'm failing. This is not what I'm wanting. I'm wanting them to write. I'm wanting them to journal. So I changed up and I did the case study and said, let's make it a game. 10 minutes. You got 10 minutes, write as much as you can. Boom, same student. So the student goes from not even a sentence to 128 words. Now, this was astounding because after the 10 minutes, when I said, okay, let me know, raise your hand, let me know how many words you have, this kid was losing his mind because he had wrote 128. He even made it really dark up there and circled it and was so proud of himself. Now, does he have errors? Oh yeah, they're there. But I'm not grading on errors. I'm wanting you to write. I'm just wanting you to put pen on paper and just go. I also, if you see this right here, there's a line there. That's because I did a one-on-one and told him to try to write his words closer to the line. And he even drew another line for himself to try to help himself. Do you see how that works? How proud I was as a teacher? I was like, he's listening. Yay. And I gave him 10 minutes and he blew me away with 128 words. I had one write 398 words in 10 minutes. I'm losing my mind. I'm like, let's go. And I'm rewarding them and I'm so positive. And now they're asking for it. They're like, Coach, when are we going to do this again? Oh, we'll do it soon. That they want to write. When they would come in and they would just listen to a song, who cares? I give them a 10-minute limit that they're going to try to out. And you can see them. And I know I have English teachers in here. This is the best sign as an educator, this. Right? You see a student do this, you're like, ha, I got him. Because their hand is hurting because they're writing so much. You're like, go! And I'm so pumped up for them. And man, what a great thing this can do for our students. Oh, I was just so proud. Okay, now it's your turn. So, we all know who this guy is. This is Walt Disney. So I want to give you a time to see how you can do with 2 minutes. So, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I want you to take a sheet of paper and a pen, and I want you to write everything you know about Disney. You can write about Disney World. You can write about Disneyland. You can write about your favorite Disney song. You can write about your favorite Disney movie. You can write about all the scandals that Disney has. I don't care. I just want you to write. I want you to write for 2 minutes. I'm going to put a timer up here. I'm going to let you go, and I want you to write everything you can about Disney in 2 minutes. Okay? Everybody grab a pen. Let's see if you can do it. I know you got to go. That's fine. All right, so you got 2 minutes. Let me know when you're ready. And go. Write everything you can about Disney in 2 minutes. All right, pens down. So I need you to count up your words and circle it up at the top and let me know how many words you got in 2 minutes.
Not too many.
Okay, how many?
30.
30, okay. Ms. Jones?
41.
41, okay. So we have 71 in total. All right, now, that was just 2 minutes, okay? And it's fun because you're talking about Disney and you can write all kind of stuff. It was interesting. Last meeting we had a lot of the connections teachers in here, chorus and the band director. So as soon as the music hit, they lost all concentration because they were too busy listening to the song. You see how that works? So there's all kind of interesting things about writing with a time limit. Be careful with the music you use, things like that. Okay.
I have to agree with you about
Yes, ma'am.
music.
Yeah.
Now, when we do have, elevator music, it's soothing, but they're fine with it.
Oh yeah. You put any type of words in there,
Right.
if they know it.
I agree with you on that.
Mhm. Or if you put elevator music that's Taylor Swift, they'll pick out the words. They'll hear it.
No, just Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. You're
Yeah, I
right.
agree with you. They'll
Mhm.
start singing with it, and they become obsessed with it, and they cannot do their work.
Oh,
I agree
yes.
with you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, so let's talk about instructional consistency pretty quickly. Okay, so plan, then plan again, then, if that's not good, just plan again. It's like when you're consistent, you're planning all the time, and teachers are doing that all the time, having daily objectives that they're trying to do, trying to accomplish, because you want to check off the list and say, hey, we got there, we did this. Okay, but this is really important. Show excitement. Get super excited about it. If you're not, they're not either. Because if you're in there and you're like, it's 4 o'clock, I'm just trying to buy my time, they're going to say the same thing. Because they're going, well, if you're not into it, I'm not into it either. That's something that I really try to do every day. But I'm really bad. And Miss Julia Shaw will tell you, she always want to make sure, Christina Hanser's the same way, would touch a clock. Because I need to make time for response time. Talking is not teaching. I love to talk, I love to communicate. But the students are not the ones learning. I'm the one doing everything. So, I can't ask a student, hey, did you understand that? Because it's a poor way of getting any information from them. And they're going to look at you and go, yeah. No, they didn't. So, we have to get into those DOK questions. We have to start building a conversation with them where not only have you stimulated them to talk to you, but now you've moved them into higher order thinking, and they're leading the conversation with DOK 3 and 4. And you're not leading anymore. You're just kind of sitting there writing stuff on the board and just going, because they're talking. And it's an amazing moment when that happens. So, that is super important about your consistency. Here's the next thing, verbal consistency. You can break it down into 3 areas. Be specific, have as few rules as possible. And then also, man, you've got to be explicit about rule, consequence. Rule, consequence. I tell my students I don't have any rules, I have expectations. Because I said rules are made to be broken, expectations are meant to exceed. So I say that every day because I want them to exceed my expectations. I don't want them to break my rules. So they come in, they're like, oh, you don't have any rules? I'm like, no, I have expectations. So, just changing the word sometimes can change the whole demographic of your classroom. So, this is a great paragraph to read. Read it right quick. Very, very important part of this is when you get down here and you start seeing positive reinforcement, which we know that. Give a mouse a cookie. We know, hey, I'm going to hand you a sticker. Oh man, kids go crazy because you give them an eraser. We get that, okay? But none of that. Here it is. By just being around. Mm-hmm. Man, you have a student that comes to your class and doesn't want to leave. You've done your job. Mm-hmm. If you can make them, who cares about what you teach? And I know that sounds horrible because we have content and we have content mastery and we're trying to be the best at it. And yes, I'm trying to get my master's and I want to get my doctorate too. It's important. But at the end of the day, I don't care how many letters I have behind my name. If they don't want to hang out in my classroom and be around me, and I have no affirmation and that we have no connection, they're not learning anything. They're just regurgitating what I've said in lecture. And those days are gone. Mm-hmm. So we have to make sure that we're reinforcing them just by being around. Go to a band concert. Go to a softball game. Go to a baseball game. Sit in the stands. Scream like a banshee at the student. Because come Monday morning, they're going to come into your class and say, man, you were yelling so loud in the stands. And it's going to create a relationship that is so strong that when you say, hey, can you take out your Chromebook? They'll do it in a heartbeat. Because you have created a relationship. Dr. Stinson talks about that all the time. We have to get over ourselves and we have to make sure that we are creating positive reinforcers. That's what we're doing. We're conditioning them to want to be around us, to want to come to our classes. That's what we want. So that, in a sense, is ABA in the classroom. You take the basics of behavioral modification, which we've changed to ABA, and you put it into your classroom where the kids not only want to learn from you, but they just want to be around you. And that's a really important part. So, you have any questions?